It is not yet July. The school holidays haven't started yet, but the travel chaos has wreaked havoc in the United States, the United Kingdom, Europe, and across the world. Staff shortage, COVID pandemic, inflation and gas prices, weather and climate. What causes the flight cancellations? What is going on? How much of it is deliberate? Where are we heading? Hello, fellow shrewd investors. Welcome this time to an investigative video in your channel, a literally burning topic. It started mid-May and since then it got worse and more widespread. The United States and the United Kingdom are particularly affected. Nearly 2,700 flights were cancelled and more than 20,000 were delayed during Memorial Day weekend. On Father's Day weekend, many travelers were left stranded at airports after more than 14,000 domestic flights were cancelled or delayed. Delta Airlines had the most cancellations June 19th with 200 flights cancelled, though overall more than 900 flights were cancelled on that day alone. United Airlines announced it will cut 50 daily departures from Newark, New Jersey this summer, beginning July 1st, a 12% reduction of the carrier's schedule in that airport alone. In the UK, airlines were ordered to cancel flights from the UK amid unacceptable travel chaos. Stick around till the end if you want to see the big picture and have some reflections on this topic. So, if we go to the FlightAware website, we will see the details about cancellations and delays sorted by the airline, the origin or the destination airport. What is clear is that it is widespread across the world. You can see even an air travel misery maps here. So here, for each airport, when the red part is bigger, it means that the delays, the cancellations, the misery is higher. The government and the airlines were quick to blame each other for the shortcomings. Different reasons contribute to flight cancellations for different airlines. Let's look at them one by one. COVID pandemic and the staff shortage. These are the most cited reasons for the chaos in the airports and flight cancellations and delays. Shortage of staff and especially pilots are presented as the main culprit for the travel chaos in almost every report you see, you hear, or you read. Let's dig it deeper. Airlines UK, the industry body for the registered airlines in the United Kingdom, said that airlines have cut about 30,000 jobs since the start of the pandemic. Across the world, many airlines encouraged or in some cases coerced senior pilots, flight attendants, and other employees to take buyouts or early retirements. Fired employees who were let down during the difficult times now learned or took other jobs, and they are not willing to let their current jobs to come back to unsafe, often labor-intensive air travel jobs that are often not so attractive in terms of salary either. Of course, what they don't say is that they fired many more pilots and other employees by taking the COVID vaccination mandates to extreme and using health standards as excuse. Please note that we are not talking about vaccination per se, but how it was used joyfully by companies to fire their employees. For example, other forms of immunity were dismissed in most cases. Pilots are particularly the most essential element of air travel on whom we trust our life by going thousands of feet above the ground under their conduct. It is undeniably one of the complex jobs that need enough training and through clearance to become a certified pilot. You don't fire pilots with a reduction in air travel due to a pandemic only to struggle to get them back as soon as the travel demand rises again. The COVID pandemic took approximately 2 years, and most estimates were even shorter at the time. In response to demands for pilots and flight crews, Alaska and United both opened flight training schools at the start of the year. Very beautiful. Both offer financial incentives to help with the 70,000 US dollar cost of becoming a pilot. Still, it is clear that the new programs won't produce certified crew members for several years. It is not a simple training procedure, it is a multi-year program, according to skift.com, a travel industry publication.
50, 40.
Who in their right mind would fire their pilots during a 2-year reduction in travel demand only to open multi-year and costly training programs to provide new graduates? Is this mismanagement or strikes? Strikes don't happen without a reason. As I said, many airlines fired a sizable number of their pilots, flight attendants, and other employees, but they also cut the salary of remaining employees. In British Airways, there was a 10% cut in payment during the pandemic, which according to some employees stayed up to now. Security staff, baggage handlers, and airline cabin crew are striking due to poor pay or poor working conditions. Poor working conditions are widely heard complaint of employees of particularly low-cost budget airlines such as EasyJet and Ryanair. For example, according to BBC News, Ryanair staff are striking in many countries across Belgium, France, Italy, Portugal, and Spain over poor working conditions and low pay. And of course, Ryanair's boss, Michael O'Leary, was very kind towards them and said that the claims of striking employees are complete rubbish. The next reason, inflation and gas prices. In a recent video on inflation, I showed that US Bureau of Statistics data indicating that consumer price index has more than doubled in certain areas of consumer basket, especially gas price. If the gas price have almost doubled for your car, the same happened to the planes. The CEO of United Airlines, Kirby, told Bloomberg in an interview that rising fuel prices are killing the industry, noting that if costs per barrel stay where they are now, the cost is a $12 billion incremental expense compared to that of 2019. So that accounts for 100% of what drives inflation in the airline business, according to Kirby. The fact is that fuel is limited and there are only a few oil-producing countries. Increasing number of oil-producing countries such as Venezuela and Iran were sanctioned due to political conflicts, the latest of which being sanctioning or substantial cut of Russian oil due to Russia-Ukraine conflict. We don't enter in this conflict here. Regardless of who is correct in those conflicts, these sanctions usually hit the ordinary people and not the politicians in the targeted countries. Now that the number of the sanctioned countries increased, those sanctions started to hit the ordinary people in the consumer countries as well. The sanctioning countries, the countries that impose those sanctions, their people are feeling the pain now. The solution seems straightforward, no? Too many planes on the sky? According to Euronews, earlier this month, Europe's air traffic agency warned that the number of flights in the coming months is likely to exceed the capacity of control centers. The problem is worse in Munich, Reims in France, and Athens. It is suggested that much of Europe is now operating close to capacity, with the agency urging countries to review their operations or face more sudden disruption this summer. But what is the truth? Let's go to Eurocontrol website and look at the flight numbers compared to that of pre-COVID in 2019. As you see here, there is a sharp reduction in the number of flights in European sky with the start of the pandemic. It continues in 2021. Towards the end, it comes back, and now we are in 2022. And as you see, we are close to that of 2019, but we haven't reached that level. So we are still not really at the level that we were in 2019. We haven't reached those numbers. In addition, with time we expect more technical breakthroughs and advancements, enabling us to manage even more planes on the sky. Weather and climate. Some blame the weather for cancellations. It sounds ridiculous, but it happened. It is sunny and nice everywhere. It can happen that weather conditions cause some delays or rarely cancellations for a couple of days, but no one would bring this as a reason for long-lasting cancellations and delays we are facing now, for weeks, if not for months. So I'll let this here without further discussing. Let's discuss the big picture and have some reflections. Is there a coordinated effort to make people unhappy, which eventually ends in chaos and destabilization? Orchestrated chaos worldwide, staff shortage worldwide, where have the people gone? One can say this is deliberate to make travel once again a privilege of the rich and powerful. For the broad masses, the motto should once again be work and sleep, no travel, not even for a necessary family visit, and hardly any leisure vacation. Elite global companies have long taken the control, and they determine the wages and working conditions with the imperative that either obey unconditionally or step aside. While in the past also it happened that once a while there were a reasonable degree of disruptions in operations, we have not seen the magnitude of disruptions we are witnessing now. Why so much unpreparedness? Everyone knew that with the lifting of travel restrictions, there will be a surge in travel demand. They sell their tickets well in advance, and consequently they know much well in advance than anyone else what the demand is and what aircraft fleet size and staff capacity is required to handle this level of demand. Why were there so much appetite to fire the pilots and other employees during the pandemic? These are questions that we should not stop to ask. The questions are more important than the answers. If you want to see how much obsession exists with the pandemic, look at the first page of United Airlines' important notices. Their most important notice is still about COVID-related entry requirements amid increased number of cancellations and delays. The response of the governments is not better. The US Department of Transportation page says that when planning a trip, passengers should keep in mind that airlines do not guarantee their schedules. They go on to say, some problems like bad weather, air traffic delays, and mechanical issues as reasons of air travel disruptions are hard to predict and often beyond the airline's control. The UK government's response was to ask the airlines to cancel their flights already now to avoid last-minute cancellations. While it is better for the planning of the passengers, but it is far from an optimal solution. With this magnitude of chaos, number of cancellations and long delays and substantially increased prices, The concluding message that reaches the average citizen is that if you are not an elite, why do you want to travel? Stay at home and watch your Netflix, television, or YouTube, or better enter Meta, and you can virtually travel wherever you want. They travel around with their private jets and tell you and me to be a responsible citizen by not flying and having CO2 footprint since our climate is changing. Travel is not only for leisure. Ironically, as a result of globalization, people are spread across the world and they need to come back and visit their families and their hometowns. A good number of travels are also due to medical reasons. Leisure is also a fundamental human right, according to the United Nations Human Rights Charter. We are not conspiracy theorists, but let's not suppress our questioning mind. Let's see the patterns and deduce possibilities. Strangely, everything fits to the plan. Major players wielding substantial influence on and acting at different areas of our life are pushing to the same converging direction. Sometimes we need to zoom out and see a bigger picture. Even if there is not any conspiring group or elites, the forces of nature unfortunately push us in the direction they want. Let's claim our rights to freedom of movement. Even if you are not a fan of travel, there are necessary needs for travel for family visit or medical reasons. You have the right to travel and you should protect it even if you don't want to use it. We don't want that virtual travel replaces our vacations. Let's prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Don't forget to like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, to subscribe and turn on the notifications button. Stay happy and wealthy until the next time.